Hello guys, Lit here. So this is a day 2 progression recap, and the setup that I'm using is pretty decent. The glitch speed is pretty decent and the single target is actually pretty good. I will talk about the items, the passive tree and the skill gems, and of course the POP will link in the descriptions. But first thing first, let's talk about the Spectre, because this setup using Spectre and created Gazi. I know this Spectre from him. I used the undead version before, but this version works better. So the Spectre that we're going to use is Valguard. And how you can get this Spectre is on Act 3 Utsal Pass, and you're looking for Valguard that have a 50 spirit reservations. You need to be careful because there's a lot of Valguard and not all of them is the same. So the way I look for it is this is a Valguard that have a 50 spirit reservations, and that's the one that I'm using. So next, let's talk about the items. So the first one is Scepter. I'm looking for level of all minions. I'm looking for spirit. I'm looking for attack speed. And my Scepter right now is not exactly that good. I only get +3 and I do not have any spirit. I do not have any attack speed. I do hit the increased damage, but attack speed and spirit is better. And for the helmet, I'm looking for plus minion all skill. This is the same as usual. This one I'm looking for +2. Unfortunately, the other stat is not that good, but this is the one thing that I get, so I'm just using it. And for the amulet, I also look for level of all minion skills. In this case, it's not very good because it's only +1. I'm still looking for +3, and amulet probably the item that I will upgrade next. But +3 can be quite expensive, so there's a bit of a grind that I have to do. And the next one is the chest. I'm using Unfolding Dawn. This is going to give you 100 spirit. That's the most important part of the chest. And this chest does have a downside, which is you do not gain a bonus from your intelligence, because intelligence usually give you mana. And usually when you use Unfolding Dawn, you're going to have problem with mana reservations because your base regen 4% is based on your maximum mana. And when your maximum mana is lower because the intelligence you use doesn't benefit you anymore, the mana regen also going to go down. But with Lich, it's become different because of this node over here, Soulless Form. This basically replaces the 4% base regen mana, and they're going to give you a new base mana regen based on your life, and in this case it's 6%. And because we do have a decent amount of life, we have a decent amount of mana recovery too. And the 107 mana per second, this is with Mind Over Matter ons, and remember Mind Over Matter does cut your mana regeneration by half. So for Lich, using Unfolding Dawn is not going to be a problem, but if you use this setup on like Infernalist, because I think you can do it with Infernalist, you kind of have to figure out your spirit, because in Infernalist you can get spirit from restoring your life, right? You probably have to using like a rare chest, something like that, or if you want to use Unfolding Dawn, then you have to find a way to mitigate the mana regenerations. And the next one is Ring. The Ring is pretty bad. Mostly I'm just looking for resistance. If possible, I'm looking for life and mana. And this one I have resistance, strength, and some mana regen. The mana regen is pretty good, but this ring is still pretty bad. And the belt, the same thing, looking for life, mana, resistance. The glove is also the same. You're looking for life, mana, and resistance. And attribute too. If you need attribute, look for attribute too. And for the boots, the extra stat you're looking for is obviously will be movement speed. I'm only at 20%. I probably have to look for movement speed boots that have a bigger movement speed, something like 20 to 25 to 30%, because movement speed in Battlefield 2 is really important. So that's about the items. And next one, let's move into the passive tree. So the passive tree is we're going to take this node on the cluster minion over here, and this is also the cluster minion over here. We also take this new cluster over here. This is basically to increase the presence area of effect and also give you some spirit, which is pretty nice. This is like 10% spirit. And I also take the minion cluster over here. This is basically going to give you physical damage as chaos damage, which the Spectre is mostly doing physical damage, even though you see fire everywhere. So the physical damage also get converted into chaos damage. And file mending, this node, I always love to take this node because it does make your minion a lot tankier, especially with something like this Spectre, which have a lot of HP. The regen feels really, really nice. And the next one, we take this node over here. This is a standard minion cluster. The important node is this one, Right Hand of Darkness, and the important line is minion have 10% chance to inflict wither on hit. And the reason why this is important because it's easier to inflict wither this way. That's number one. Number two, this allow you to not using withering presence, and the reason why I don't want to use withering presence because number one, it costs the spirit. We can use the spirit for something else. The second one, you have to be somewhat close to the enemy, which I don't really like. And without using withering presence, you can kind of stay behind your minions, which is a lot safer. And that's the reason why I take this node, and so far I really like this node. And the next one is minion cluster over here. This is pretty standard. And the last one is minion cluster over here. And this is also give us access to Sturdy Mind, which is give some extra mana regenerations. And yeah, the passive tree is pretty simple. I do take Mana for Matter, and this is the damage taken recoup as mana. And this especially helps if you get hit and your mana get hit. Usually your mana will be gone, and you want the mana to recover fast because you need to be not on low mana for your minion to have benefit of extra chaos. Because remember, on this first node over here, while you're not on low mana, you and your ally in your presence have Unholy Mind. So you have to make sure your your mana is not staying on low too long. And I think low mana is 35%. Let's check. Yeah, it's 35%. So you have to be above 35%. So the idea is just trying to make sure that we have enough regen so we can come back to the 35% threshold pretty fast. And Mana over Matter does provide like a little bit layer of defense. Like it does absorb some of the damage. So it does feels pretty good in terms of defense. But this is not like the endgame defense or anything like that. Later on, I'm still not sure whether I should go for like mana stacking, and we kind of able to take like the Black Knight Heart. It's going to increase the magnitude of Unholy Might. Honestly, I'm really not sure whether I should go for that one or not. But for now, this is the setup that I'm using. And the next one, and the next ascendancy point, I'm probably going to trade up Sword of the Soul, and we'll see how good the explosion is. Now for the skill gems, this is Skeletal Warrior, and this is what I also going to recommend. If you find a scepter, try to find a scepter with Skeletal Warrior, because you're going to equip the sacrificial lamb on this one. That's mean every time you use Pain Offering, it always going to target your warrior. And also putting Withering Thoughts, this one is not necessary, and the last cap is also not necessary. Withering Thoughts, it just helps to like apply Wither. Probably it's probably not going to apply Wither. So these two gems, just ignore it. You can use anything you want, like mid shield or anything like that. That's fine. And for the curse, I'm using Despair because all your minions going to have extra curse damage. So Despair just affect all of them. I don't know if Flammability better. We probably have to check for POB, but for that one we have to wait for POB to update first. And the next one is Ember Fusilate. This is basically how you're going to summon your Raging Spirit. So this is my rotations for summoning spirit. I will begin with Ember Fusilate 2 times. That's going to give me 4. That's going to give us 4 Raging Spirit. One of them doesn't hit. So for example, like 2 times Ember Fusilate, that's going to give you 4 that's going to give you 4 Summon Raging Spirit. And usually I will follow up it with, like, let's say I'm using Solar Orb and detonate that. Depending on the situation, I will use Fusilate twice, and I will use Detonate that, or Ember Fusilate twice, or I'm going to use like Solar Orb once, something like that. So 2 Ember Fusilate, 1 something else, and go back to Ember Fusilate again. The rotation is pretty simple. And the next one is, and for the Ember Fusilate, I'm equipped with Unleash, Arcane Tempo, and Fast Forward. Fast Forward is basically to make when you summon your Ember Fusilate from this one to fire. This basically shorten that period of time. That's the point of the skill effectuations. So it's make it faster to fire. And the next one is Raging Spirits. We're still using it. I really wish I don't, because I really hate this new summoning Raging Spirit. But I'm still using it because it does help a lot with DPS. So the support gem is Minion Mastery, Fire Infusions, and Feeding Frenzy. So for the Fall Guard, I'm using Scatter Shot, Martial Tempo, Immolate, and Half. And the next one is Solar Orbs. This, you probably can replace this with Flame Wall, because the point of the Solar Orb is basically just to ignite the enemy, and you can do ignite with Flame Wall too. The reason why I'm using Solar Orb other than Flame Wall, because Solar Orb I can cast it from far away, so the casting range is a lot longer, and this make me able to like cast it behind my minion instead of in front of the minion. So that's the reason why I'm using Solar Orb, but you can also use Flame Wall with it, that's also fine. And I link this with Fire Exposure because some Raging Spirit still deal fire damage, and some portion of the Fall Guard because we use Immolate. So Fire Exposure is going to increase the damage. And the next one I'm using Strip Away, this to increase the effect of the exposure. And then I'm using Fiery Death, and this is basically adding the explosion when you kill a monster that ignited by Solar Orbs, which is basically all the monster on the pack. The radius of the Solar Orb is pretty huge, and this is also the reason why I say that you probably can use this on Infernalist, because you can technically make the explosion happen without need to be a lich. And the Fire Death so far feels good. and this also fasten the clearing speed, so I highly recommend using Fiery Death. And the next one is Pain Offering. I socket it with Ablations and also Dance Macabre. And the next one is Not Only That. This is a classic. If you have enemy that have a lot of HP, the best way to deal with it is just using Dead on the Dead. When one of them die, you explode the corpse, everything around it will die too. And this is attacked from 0.1 and is still the same until now. It does get nerfed, it's only 8.9% of course maximum life, but it's still good enough to clear most of the monster because they do increase the monster life. So it's kind of a benefit in a way. So and the socket gem and the support gem is Spell Echo and Spell Cascade. If you can get another slot, just put something like Magnify Effect, that's pretty good. And that basically concludes all the setup. It's pretty simple setup, and the playstyle is also pretty comfy. So far the setup is performing pretty good. So I still don't have any idea what I want to do with the endgame. I'm basically just like playing around with the Spectre. I do find few that are kind of funny. There's one like a big giant worm, something like that. It's not really doing anything. It's just really huge, and it kind of block the enemy. That's about it. And we'll see if this is going to hold into like T15 or T16, something like that. And I will make a video after I make like a significant upgrade for the setup. So if you like the content, consider to like and subscribe. That will help the channel a lot. And thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.